The wind came off the mesa like a blade. It cut through the town of Caldwell Flats without mercy, rattling the shutters of the saloon and sending a tin bucket rolling down the empty main street. The lanterns swung on their hooks. The horses tied to the post outside the general store stamped their hooves and pulled at their reins. Cole Harlan did not look up from the fire. He sat on the porch of his ranch house at the edge of town, his boots propped on the railing, a cup of cold coffee in his hand. He was a quiet man, lean and sun-darkened, with the kind of face that had been shaped by years outdoors. There were lines around his eyes that came not from laughter, but from squinting into too many hard horizons. He heard the sound before he saw anything, a stumbling in the darkness beyond the fence. Then a figure appeared at the gate, half running, half falling, a woman in a dress that had once been blue, and was now mostly mud. She pushed through the gate and collapsed against the fence post. Cole set down his coffee. He did not move quickly. He rose from his chair, the way men who have seen trouble rise, slowly, watching, measuring. He came down the porch steps and walked toward her. She looked up when she heard his boots on the dirt. Her name was Nora Calloway. He did not know that yet. What he knew was that she had a cut above her left eye, that her lip was swollen, and that she was holding herself the way people hold themselves when something inside is broken. One arm wrapped tight around her ribs. "Please," she said. Her voice was barely there. "Please don't send me away." Cole crouched down so he was at her level. He looked at her face, at the cut, at the way her eyes were doing two things at once, begging and bracing, asking for help, and already expecting to be turned away. "I'm not sending you anywhere," he said. She blinked, like the words did not make sense. "Can you walk?" he asked. "I think so." "Then come inside." He did not offer his hand right away. He stood first and stepped back, giving her room, giving her the choice of how she rose. She pushed herself up against the fence post, found her footing, and when she swayed he moved beside her and let her take his arm. They walked to the porch that way. Inside the ranch house, Cole lit the lamp on the table and pulled out the chair nearest the stove. He stoked the fire without saying anything. When the warmth began to fill the room, he went to the shelf above the dry sink and found the cloth and the small tin of salve that his neighbor Edna Doyle had given him 3 winters ago for frostbite. He had never used it. He pulled a chair across the floor and sat in front of Nora Calloway. "This is going to sting," he said. "I know." He cleaned the cut above her eye. She did not flinch. She sat very still, and Cole worked carefully, and neither of them spoke. The fire popped. Outside, the wind kept at the walls of the house. When he was done, he sat back. "Who did this?" he asked. Her jaw tightened. "That's not your concern," she said. "You came to my gate," he said. Not hard, not accusing. Just a fact. She looked at the floor. "I didn't know where else to go. I saw the light on your porch." She paused. "I'll leave in the morning. I just need somewhere to be tonight." Cole stood and went to the kitchen. He came back with bread and a bowl of leftover beans from supper. He set them on the table in front of her. "Eat," he said. She looked at the food, then at him. There was something in her eyes that he recognized, not gratitude exactly. More like suspicion of gratitude, like she was waiting for the cost to be named. He went back to his chair by the stove and picked up the piece of leather harness he had been mending before she arrived. He went back to working on it. She ate. The clock on the wall moved its hands toward midnight. "My name is Nora," she said finally. "Cole," he said without looking up from the harness. "I'm not what you might think," she said. "I don't think anything yet," he said. That seemed to be enough for her. She finished the beans. She wrapped her hands around the empty bowl and stared into it. "Please," she said quietly, barely above a whisper, "don't throw me out." Cole set down the harness. He looked at her, at the lamplit face, at the swollen lip, at the way she was holding herself together with nothing but will. "I told you," he said. "You're not going anywhere tonight." He stood and went to the back room and came back with a folded blanket, thick wool, the kind that smelled like cedar from the chest it lived in. He set it on the chair beside her. "Sleep by the stove," he said. "It'll stay warm till morning." He took the lamp from the table, turned it low, and went to his room. He left the door open. Not to watch her, just so she would know she was not locked out of anything in this house. Nora Calloway sat in the chair for a long time before she unfolded the blanket and pulled it around her shoulders. She did not sleep right away. She listened to the wind and to the quiet sounds of the ranch house, the creak of the roof, the breath of the fire, the occasional stamp of the horses in the barn out back. She had come to his gate because the light was on. She had not expected this. She had not expected a man who asked no price. Outside Caldwell Flats went on, sleeping under the hard and indifferent sky. And inside Cole Harlan's ranch house, for the first time in longer than she could remember, Nora Calloway felt something close to safe. She did not know yet that by morning, things would be much more complicated. She did not know that the man who had done this to her was already asking around town about where she had gone, and she did not know that Cole Harlan, who had said nothing about himself, who had asked nothing, who had simply fed her and put a blanket in her hands, was the one man in Caldwell Flats that particular someone had very good reason to fear. The fire burned low. Nora slept. Cole lay on his back in the dark and stared at the ceiling and listened to the wind. He had learned a long time ago that some things find you whether you go looking or not. He had learned that, and then spent 10 years trying to forget it. He thought about it now. Sleep did not come easy, but it came. The morning arrived gray and cold with frost on the fence posts and a thin sheet of ice on the water trough out back. Cole was up before first light. He had been a man of early mornings his whole life, long before the army, long before the years he did not talk about. It was just the way he was built. Some people needed the dark to end before they could start. Cole had always been comfortable in the hour before the world decided what kind of day it was going to be. He stoked the stove and put water on for coffee. He glanced at Nora Calloway. She was still asleep in the chair, curled under the wool blanket with her knees drawn up and her cheek resting on her folded hands. The cut above her eye had closed overnight. The swelling on her lip had gone down. Some in sleep, her face had released whatever it had been holding the night before. And she looked younger than she had at the gate. Cole turned back to the stove. He fried salt pork and cracked 4 eggs and sliced yesterday's bread. By the time the coffee was ready, she was awake, sitting up and looking at her surroundings the way people do when they wake in an unfamiliar place. Slow recognition, then the memory of how they got there. "Coffee?" Cole said. She nodded. He set a cup on the table and went to the window. The sun was just beginning to come over the eastern ridge, throwing long cold shadows across the yard. He saw the rider before she did. A single horse coming up the main road at a pace that was not casual. The horse was a buckskin. The rider wore a black hat. Cole recognized both the hat and the horse. Bart Lyle. He had expected Bart Lyle. He had not expected him quite this early. Cole turned from the window. "How long have you been in Caldwell Flats?" he asked. Nora looked up from her coffee. 2 months, she said. "I came with my brother. He took a job at the Lyle outfit." She stopped. "Or I thought he had." "What do you mean? You thought he had?" Her hands tightened around the cup. "When I got there," Bart Lyle said. "My brother owed him money. Said the job was to pay the debt. I didn't understand what kind of job until the 3rd week." Cole's expression did not change, but something behind his eyes went very still. "And last night," he said, "I told Lyle I was leaving, that my brother and I were both leaving." She touched the corner of her lip without thinking. He made clear that wasn't going to happen. Cole went to the door and took his gun belt from the hook on the wall. He buckled it without hurry. "Stay inside," he said. "Cole," she said. He stopped. She was looking at him with that same two-thing expression from the night before, but it had shifted, less begging now, more something else. "He has 3 men with him. Always." "I know," Cole said. He stepped out onto the porch. Bart Lyle pulled up at the gate. He was a wide man, not tall, built like a rain barrel, with a face that had gone red from years of sun and liquor. The 3 riders fanned out behind him the way men do when they want to look like more than they are. "Harlan," Lyle said. His voice was loud in the cold morning air. "You got something of mine." Cole leaned against the porch post with his thumbs hooked in his belt. "I don't," he said. "Woman came this way last night. Nora Calloway. She's in my employ." "Nobody employs anybody against their will in this county," Cole said. "That's been the law since before either of us got here." Lyle smiled. It was the smile of a man who found the law amusing in the way a cat finds a mouse amusing. "She owes a debt," Lyle said. "Her and her brother both." "Then you take it to Judge Carver in Abilene," Cole said. "You ride out there today and you file your claim, and you let the judge sort it. You don't come to my property at sunup looking for a woman with a split lip." The smile left Lyle's face. The riders behind him straightened in their saddles. "I could take her," Lyle said. "There's 4 of us." "There are 4 of you," Cole said. "And there's 1 of me. And if you know anything about me at all, Bart, you know that is not in your favor." A long silence. The buckskin moved under Lyle, impatient. Cole did not move at all. The thing about a man who stands like he has nothing to lose, Lyle knew, was that it was very hard to bluff against him. He had tried it before with other men. The ones who had truly given up on being careful were the most dangerous ones in any room, or on any porch. Lyle pulled his horse around. "This isn't done, Harlan." "Probably not," Cole said. "But it's done for this morning." He watched them ride back down the road until they were past the first bend. Then he went inside. Nora was standing against the wall beside the window, where she had been watching. "You know him?" she asked. "We've had dealings," Cole said. He poured himself a cup of coffee and sat down at the table. "What kind?" He looked at his coffee. "The kind that ended," he said. She studied his face. "He's afraid of you." "For now," Cole said. "By noon he'll be angry enough that the fear won't matter." He set down the cup and looked at her directly. "Your brother," he said. "Where is he?" Something shifted in her expression. A shadow crossed it. "That's what I don't know," she said. "He was there when I left the Lyle property last night, but Lyle said things that made me think he might not still be there." Cole nodded slowly. "Then we have until noon," he said, "to figure out where he is." Nora looked at him. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. He picked up his cup again. "Because somebody should," he said. It was not much of an answer, but it was the only one he had, and she found somehow that it was enough. By mid-morning, Cole had saddled his gray horse and ridden to the south end of town to call on a man named Pete Garfield. Pete Garfield was 71 years old, walked with 2 canes, and knew every piece of business that happened within 30 miles of Caldwell Flats. He had been a trail cook, a surveyor, and for 9 years a deputy sheriff before his knees gave out. He sat now in a rocking chair on the porch of the small house behind the church and received visitors the way a judge receives petitioners. Cole tied the gray to the fence post and walked up. "Heard you had company this morning," Pete said, before Cole had reached the steps. "Word travels," Cole said. "Lyle's the kind of man people watch," Pete said. He pointed at the other chair. Cole sat. "Nora Calloway," Cole said. "Her brother, his name is Danny Calloway. 20 years old, came to town 2 months ago." Pete's eyes went to the distant ridge. "I know the name," he said. "Where is he?" Pete rocked once, twice. "There's a line shack," he said. "Up on the far side of Crow Creek, on the edge of Lyle's range. Lyle uses it to keep men he doesn't want seen in town." He paused. "I heard tell there's someone up there been there going on weeks." Cole's jaw tightened. "That's Lyle's property," he said. "It is," Pete said. "I'd be trespassing." "You would," Pete said, without apology, without the smallest indication of what Cole should do about that. Cole stood. "If I'm not back by sundown," he said, "you might let your Dunbar know where I went." "Dunbar's in Abilene till Friday," Pete said. "Then you might tell somebody," Cole said. He went back to the gray and rode south. The land beyond town opened up into wide grassland, brown and dry in the autumn cold, broken by draws and dry creek beds and the occasional line of cottonwoods that marked where water ran in wetter seasons. Cole rode at a steady pace, not pushing the horse, reading the land. He had ridden this country before. Years before, when things were different. He did not think about those years if he could help it. He crossed Crow Creek where the banks were low and found the shack an hour past noon. It was a single-room structure, weathered gray, with a rusted stovepipe and one small window. There was a padlock on the door that had been nailed shut from the outside. Cole dismounted. He knocked on the door. "Danny Calloway," he said. A long silence, then a voice, hoarse and careful. "Who are you?" "Name's Cole Harlan. Your sister sent me." It was not exactly true, but it was close enough. Another silence. "Nora," the voice said. "She's safe," Cole said. "She's at my place in town." The silence stretched. "There's a padlock," Danny said. The voice of a young man trying very hard not to sound afraid. "I see it," Cole said. He went back to the gray and pulled the short iron bar he kept in his saddlebag. It took 4 minutes and most of his strength to break the hasp away from the rotted wood of the door frame. The door swung open. Danny Calloway was sitting in the corner with his back to the wall and his knees drawn up. He was young, 20 at most, with his sister's dark eyes and a week's worth of rough growth on his jaw. He was thin in the way of someone who had not been fed enough. He had a bruise along the left side of his face that was still purple. He looked at Cole. Cole looked at him. "Can you ride?" Cole said. Danny got to his feet slowly. "Yes, then let's go." Cole helped the younger man onto the gray and led the horse on foot the first mile to spare the animal. Neither of them talked much. Danny asked twice about Nora. Cole told him twice. She was fine. They came into Caldwell Flats as the sun was getting low. Nora came off the porch at a run when she saw them. Cole stepped out of the way. The reunion was not a quiet thing. He went to the barn and put the gray in her stall and took a long time about it, brushing her down and checking her hooves and doing all the small work that needed doing, giving the two of them their time. When he came back to the house, Nora was sitting at the table with her brother's hands in hers, and her head bowed. Danny Calloway looked up when Cole came in. "Thank you," he said. Cole nodded and went to the stove. The three of them ate sup together as the last of the daylight left the sky. Cole and Danny talked about the road to Abilene, about Judge Carver, about what a proper legal complaint against Bart Lyle would look like, and how long it might take to be heard. Nora said little. But once, when Cole turned from the stove, he caught her watching him with an expression he could not quite name. He turned back to the stove. Outside, the night settled over Caldwell Flats. Somewhere in town, Bart Lyle was not finished. Cole knew that. Danny knew it too, from the way he kept glancing at the door. "He'll come back," Danny said. "Yes," Cole said. "So what do we do?" Cole set 3 cups on the table and poured the coffee. "Tonight," he said. "We do nothing. Tonight we sleep and we eat and we rest." He sat down. "Lyle makes his move when he's ready. We make ours when we're ready, and we're not ready yet." He said it plainly. "The way you state a thing that is simply true." Danny nodded slowly. Nora wrapped her hands around her cup. She still had that expression on her face. Cole pretended not to notice, but he noticed. The next morning brought 3 things before breakfast. A note slipped under the front door, a fire in the feed barn at the east end of town, and a visit from a man named Cal Devlin. Cole found the note first. It was written in a rough hand on a torn piece of brown paper. It said, "Get out of my business, Harlan, or it'll make you sorry you ever came back to this county." There was no signature. There did not need to be. Cole set it on the table and went to wake Danny. The smoke from the feed barn was visible from the front window by the time they were both up, a thick black column rising against the pale morning sky. Cole pulled on his coat and told Nora to bolt the door and not open it for anyone but him. She nodded, but her eyes said she did not like staying behind. Cole and Danny walked through town fast. By the time they reached the feed barn, 4 other men were already there with buckets, and the owner, a man named George Sully, was standing in the yard with his hat in his hands, watching a season's worth of hay and 2 storage wagons disappear. They worked the bucket line for 2 hours. The barn was a loss. The fire had been set deliberately. Everyone could see that. The burn pattern told the story plain enough. 2 separate points of origin, 1 at each end. No accident does that. Afterwards, Sully stood with Cole in the yard while the other men drifted away. "Lyle?" Sully said quietly. "Probably," Cole said. Sully was 60, with a thick gray mustache and the permanent squint of a man who had spent his life outdoors. He looked at the smoking ruin of his barn and did not say anything for a long time. "He burned 1 other property last year," Sully said at last. "Ned Perry's stable. Ned packed up and left town 2 weeks later." He paused. "That's how Lyle works. He doesn't shoot you. He just makes it so you can't afford to stay." Cole said nothing. "You're not Ned Perry," Sully said. It was not a question. "No," Cole said. Cal Devlin found Cole on the walk back through town. Devlin was a stranger, which was immediately apparent from the way he was dressed and the quality of his horse. His clothes were clean and his boots were new, and he had the unhurried manner of a man who did not need to rush because money meant he could afford to wait. "You're Harlan," Devlin said. He fell into step beside Cole without asking. "I am," Cole said. "Cal Devlin," the man said. "I represent a group of cattle interests out of Dallas." "All right," Cole said. "We have a situation in Caldwell Flats that concerns us," Devlin said. He glanced sideways at Cole. Bart Lyle has been acquiring land in this county at a rate that concerns certain people. Some of that acquisition has been irregular. Irregular, Cole said. Coercive, Devlin said. Threatening, occasionally violent. He paused. Sound familiar? Cole stopped walking. He turned to look at Devlin directly. What do you want from me, he said. Devlin met his gaze steadily. We want someone to stay, he said. Most people in this county, when Lyle applies pressure, they leave. We want someone who won't. We want someone who can stand still long enough that others feel they can stand still too. Cole studied the man's face. And what do you offer? Cole said. Legal backing, Devlin said. We have lawyers in Abilene with Judge Carver's ear. If a formal complaint is filed against us, with supporting testimony, it will be heard quickly. He paused. And we have money for those who have suffered losses. George Sully, for example. Cole turned back toward the house. Devlin walked with him. I have 2 people at my house, Cole said. A woman and her brother. Lyle had the brother locked in a shack on his property for 2 weeks. That's false imprisonment, Devlin said immediately. With a witness and a doctor's assessment, it becomes a criminal complaint. Not just civil. Cole thought. The distance between Lyle applying pressure and Lyle being held accountable by law was the distance between what this county had been and what it could be. He had not planned on being part of that distance, but he had a woman with a split lip in his kitchen and a young man with a purple bruise on his face eating at his table. And the feed barn at the east end of town was still smoking. Come to the house, Cole said. You can speak to the Calloways yourself. Devlin nodded. They walked the rest of the way without talking. Nora opened the door when she heard Cole's boots on the porch steps. She looked at Devlin with the careful measuring look that had become familiar to Cole in the day and a half he had known her. This man has something useful to say, Cole told her. She stepped back and let them in. Danny was at the table eating the last of the bread. Cole put coffee on. Outside the window, the smoke from Sully's barn was thinning now, going pale as the fire burned itself to ash. Bart Lyle had made his move. Now they would make theirs. The meeting at Cole's kitchen also 2 hours. Cal Devlin was thorough. He laid out what his people knew about Lyle's operations in Caldwell Flats County and the 2 counties to the north and west. He named properties. He named dates. He named men who had left and the circumstances under which they had left. Danny listened with the expression of someone hearing their own private suffering, connected to something larger and older than themselves. Nora listened with no expression at all, which Cole was beginning to understand was how she paid the most careful attention. At the end, Devlin put a piece of paper on the table. This is an affidavit form, he said. If both of you sign it, describing what happened to you at the Lyle property over the past 2 months, my lawyers can have it before Judge Carver inside of a week. Danny looked at Nora. Nora looked at the paper. Will it protect us? Danny said. The law will protect you better than hiding does, Devlin said, not unkindly. Lyle burned Sully's barn this morning, Nora said. That's not the law working. No, Devlin said. That's a man who knows he's losing his grip and is acting from panic. He paused. Panicking men make mistakes. Cole poured a second round of coffee and said nothing. He was thinking about the note under the door, about the 3 riders behind Lyle at the gate yesterday morning, about the shack at Crow Creek and the hasp he had broken off the rotted door frame. He was also thinking about something Nora had said at breakfast, after Devlin arrived but before Cole had brought him inside. She had been at the window watching the last of the smoke from Sully's barn dissolve into the pale sky, and she had said quietly and without turning around, I keep waiting for you to ask what this is costing you. He had said, it's not costing me anything I wasn't willing to spend. She had turned then and looked at him in a way that he had needed to look away from. He thought about that now. Devlin left in the early afternoon with both affidavits signed and folded into his coat pocket. He shook Cole's hand at the door. There will be a hearing, Devlin said. 2 weeks at most. Lyle will be summoned. And until then, Cole said. Until then, Devlin said, stay visible. Lyle works by making people disappear quietly. A man standing in plain sight is harder to move than a man hiding, he wrote out. Cole stood on the porch and watched him go. Danny came and stood beside him. I want to help, Danny said. Whatever you need, I can ride, I can work. I'm not going to sit in your house while you carry this. Cole looked at him. The bruise on the young man's face had shifted color overnight, going from purple to the sickly yellow-green of a healing injury. But his eyes were clear, and his jaw was set. "Can you shoot?" Cole said. "Some," Danny said. "Then after supper we practice," Cole said. "And tomorrow morning you ride with me to every property on the South Road and we tell those people what Devlin told us." Danny nodded. "You think they'll stand?" Danny said. "Some will," Cole said. "Fear is only stronger than hope until somebody shows them hope is available." He went back inside. Nora was washing the cups at the dry sink, her back to the room. When she heard Cole's step, she said, without turning, "You said something to him." "A few things," Cole said. "About standing your ground." "Yes." She was quiet for a moment. The sound of water and the scrape of the cloth on the tin cup. "My father used to say that the kind of man who holds a door open when everything is falling apart is rarer than water in a drought." She paused. "I used to think he was being poetic." Cole sat down. "And now," he said. She turned from the sink and looked at him. Her face was steady. The cut above her eye was healing clean. She had done her hair up this morning, and she was wearing the spare shirt he had found in the cedar chest. Too big for her, rolled at the sleeves. "Now," she said, "I think he was just accurate." Cole held her gaze. There was something between them in that moment, not spoken, not named, not pushed toward any resolution. It sat in the room the way the heat sat in a room, when the fire was right, present and solid and requiring nothing. He looked away first. "I'll make supper," he said. "I'll help," she said. And they did. That evening, after Danny was asleep on the cot in the back room, Cole sat on the porch in the cold dark with his coffee and his thoughts. Lyle was not done. Devlin's lawyers were moving, but moving took time. Time was the one resource Lyle had as much of as anyone. Cole was not afraid, but he was careful. And being careful meant thinking through every door, every road, every hour of the next 2 weeks. Inside the house, he could hear the small sounds of Nora settling, the creak of the chair, the soft movement of the blanket. She had stopped waiting to be sent away. He had noticed that sometime today, she had stopped holding herself like a person ready to be asked to leave, and started moving through the house like a person who was simply in it. He was glad of it. He had not expected to be glad of it. The stars over Caldwell Flats were hard and clear, the way stars got in cold weather, sharp-edged and close. Cole drank his coffee. He thought about what Devlin had said. Stay visible. Lyle works by making things disappear. All right, he thought. He would stay visible, whatever it cost him. He had said it was not costing him anything he wasn't willing to spend. He had meant the legal trouble and the threat, and the lost sleep. Sitting on the porch now under the hard bright stars, he thought there might be other costs he had not counted yet. He was not sure how he felt about that. He was not sure he felt anything, except that the cold was sharp and the coffee was gone. And tomorrow would come whether he was ready or not. He went inside. He left the lamp burning low. In the morning, Caldwell Flats would wake up, and Bart Lyle would make his next move, and Cole Harlan would be standing in plain sight when he did. That was enough. For now, that was enough. And in the room behind him, Nora Calloway slept, without her hands clenched for the first time in 2 months. And the fire in the stove kept the cold out, and the stars did what stars do. Burning quietly at the edge of everything, patient and ancient and indifferent to the small warm dramas of the people below. But not Cole. Cole was not indifferent. That was the whole of it. That was all of it.